in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney,
I'm MK.
and how are ya?
Well, I really had something I was so ready to say. Oh,
You
in
did, I
our
asked you, and you said
you
you
did.
did.
So in our last episode, you were talking about the bar, obviously, and all the things that you had to answer questions about. And it
Mhm.
reminded me of something that I really am very confused by. Because so you're like, I don't know where this is going. So I took as long as everything goes correctly tomorrow night, as of tomorrow night, I will be CPR AED certified to be a professional rescuer, aka I could be a lifeguard or like hold somebody alive until the paramedics come, whatever. Like I will be
Nice. I'm
all,
supposed to take that class soon.
yeah, I'll be all trained and certified and everything will be great. But I had to do the like the coursework online stuff, and I was doing that today. And I completely understand and respect liability and liability
Mhm.
law. But why is the correct answer for the questions about what is your first step as a professional rescuer to get consent? Everything on the Red Cross, like everything that I was doing, it was like your first step should be to get consent. And while I do understand that, like, if you crack somebody's rib while giving them the Heimlich, they can sue you because you didn't have consent to do that. Like, I get what they're saying, but at the same time, if someone was unresponsive, whose consent am I getting?
Well, I'm also wondering if it has to do with DNR. Like, if you're trying to save someone who's got a DNR in place, and you bring them back after they've passed, that might be a situation. I do not know how you would figure that out if you're not actively in a hospital.
Right. And also,
However,
like, I feel like people who have DNRs, it's different than like choking in a pool. Like that shouldn't be the same thing as like
I,
in a coma.
I
Like,
don't. Right. Like there are different levels, there are different things, and maybe it's
right.
like if it's a child, you have to get the parents' permission,
Well, and that's
and
one of
so
the things
maybe
it
that's
said
where
was it
consent
was
comes
talking about
in.
like children like getting parents' permission and everything. And there were like
Mm-hmm.
caveats. They were like, if the person is unresponsive, like do your best.
Sure.
Like, but it was like, what is the first step you should do after you've secured the area? And it's like, get consent. And I was like, I I'm sorry, but if I see someone choking or passing out after getting out of a pool, I don't think my first response is to be like, is it okay if I give you CPR?
My guess is they have to say that for livelihood purposes on their end of training, because also like it could be a religious thing. Like people have religious
Right.
restrictions of like who can touch you, who cannot touch you, stuff like that. So it could fall into all of that. So by
Right.
training you that that is the first step,
Which and
they're
I
protecting
totally
themselves.
I totally get, and I totally get the Red Cross protecting themselves, but also like all of the training, none of it involves mouth to mouth. Like the current training practices are not like
But
they're like
like there's some religions that like if you were a man who was doing it, you couldn't necessarily try and save a woman. It would have to be a woman who would have to like do
no,
it
and
or
I
whatever. Like
get that, and like well, and especially because there's things like if you need to use an AED and you need to take someone's clothes off, like you have to
mhm,
be like
mhm,
careful. But I also like, and I completely understand, and like obviously, like I respect that there are like religious differences about who can see what,
mhm.
but at the same time, I'm gonna be honest, like. And I don't mean to be an asshole. If it comes down to, for my sister's life, if it comes down to a man can't take her shirt off because of her religious reasons or she dies, I don't and I was the person who was at the pool with her, I would give them consent. Like, you know what I mean? And
Well,
like,
no,
and
yeah,
then she can, and then her
right,
husband can be mad at me all he wants.
right. And then like in practice, it probably doesn't work that way. But I understand for liability purposes why they say that
But
because if you were held liable, then you're held liable. However, if they didn't tell you that you had to get considered, you had to do it this way, they could also be held liable, and then it can just snowball from there. So,
yeah,
like, I understand why they're saying even with practice, it's not quite how it works out.
right. But it was just so funny. You were talking about like the different answers on these law questions. And I go, speaking of the law, what the fuck is the Red Cross doing? Which, again, I do understand it from a legal standpoint, but I literally was like, it's like how should you hold your hands to give an infant CPR? Also, ask for consent. I was like,
Mhm.
but the videos that you had to watch to like tell you about it, some of them were very decent acting, and some of them were just instructional videos, and some of them were the worst acting I've ever seen because like they were talking about, I don't know if how much you know about like rescue or anything like that, but there's the shout, tap, shout method, which is if someone seems to be unresponsive, you shout, you tap their shoulder, you shout again. If they still don't answer after those three things, then you consider them unresponsive. But if it's an infant, you can't tap their shoulder. It tells you to tap the
Right.
bottom of their foot.
Uh-huh.
All well and good. I understand what they're doing. You don't want to shake them up if there's something wrong, especially if they're not breathing, blah, blah, blah. But then they had this video, and it was this guy lifeguard, and like a fake baby, like a CPR dummy of a baby, and he like walks up and he's tapping the baby's foot. He's like, "Baby, baby, baby." What is happening? Um, yeah.
That's hilarious.
So if I ever, but also if I ever have to give like resuscitate a baby, I don't know if I am emotionally capable of that. That is the most terrible. Like I'm
Um,
watching these videos and like answering these questions and also having existential panic about ever being in a position to give CPR to a baby.
I know me and Kirsten and Rachel are, Kirsten has to take it for her work. And she was like, do you guys just want to take it with me? And we're like, it's probably good information to have. Like, at once upon a lifetime, I was certified, but that
Yeah.
was a few years ago.
Well, I was
Um,
technically certified in Thailand, but it was in Thailand, not via the Red Cross, and also there was an alligator at our training session. So like was it really certified?
I didn't have an alligator my last one. But I was like, sure. And then it was like, Rachel was like, well, yeah, it's probably good. Like, I have a newborn. Like, and even though she's also done it at some point in time, it's been many moons ago. She was
Yeah.
certified. So, like,
Right.
in practice, we're doing it because there's a baby. And hopefully, we just never have to do it ever
Yeah.
for a baby or non baby.
Because it is terrifying. But yeah, so that is it's I have my in-person training session tomorrow. It's my week of professional development and getting ready for school. So my actual like first official day of work doesn't happen until I want to say like the 25th or 26th of August, like toward the end. But today was my first day of like meetings, and these ones are all voluntary. I get paid extra money for doing them. It's fine. Like,
Nice.
but
I was thinking this was really early for your, like, art class started this week, I think.
yeah, no, I had a class about the foundations of reading from 9 to noon today, and Kate and I went 25
Early.
minutes. Like Kate and I went 25 minutes late, and Jill, my other co-teacher, Jill is the teacher. So like wasn't really work. It wasn't really work. It was just the fact that I actually had to like get up and be somewhere for the first
You just
time.
show up.
And I was
Yeah.
like, ugh. And then like Dan was like, "Do you need coffee?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "But aren't you gonna be late?" I go, "Yeah, Kate's coming to pick me up in like 15 minutes." He goes, "Your class starts in 10." I go, "Yep."
I was literally talking about that in my group today, like one of the Discord groups I'm in. She was like, she lives in New York, and I obviously used to.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I keep getting up like 20 minutes before I have to leave, and I feel like I'm just rushing it. And I was like, I used to wake up at the time I work started and then show up 25 minutes late. Like, I was like, I don't think you're
Listen,
another girl from New York. She's like, yeah, you're late. Like,
I'm
late is all time
I'm
in New York.
I know that it's not true. I know it's not true. But they changed our school year. Like our next year, the
Mhm.
hours of our school year changed. And I genuinely think that they just changed it so that people would stop being late. Because like the school day is now starting at the time that we all got to work anyway.
So now you just get to get there later.
Maybe. There's a new principal and I'm still not
So you
tenured.
gotta
So
be like
like
on it.
so I have to like actually be on it.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. But it's fine. But again, school starts at the time I was supposed to be there. But that also means they changed the class times to be later. So now I will get to work at the same time, but instead of being late, I'll be on time and I'll still have an hour and a half before I have to teach.
Love that for you.
Yeah,
Love
because
that for you.
I don't teach first period. And they changed it so the teachers actually have like 25 minutes before first period starts. So
Oh,
my school day
nice.
starts at 7:55. My first class doesn't start till after 9.
That's perfect. That's
So
perfect.
I'll be fine. It'll be great. I'll eat
I love
breakfast.
that for you.
I'll have my shit together. It'll be great.
Ugh, the dream. The dream. Um,
How are you?
well, I'm sleepy because it is hitting that time where my brain forgets to be alive. So,
It's eight
um,
o'clock.
I'm telling you right now, I am not well. Um, but I'm holding in. So I had my caffeine last episode, and so now I'm having, because the DNA Awards, I'm having this Wicked Grove, Wicked. I've been listening to Boston people lately.
Wicked.
Wicked Grove pear secco. I don't
Ooh.
know if they sell this everywhere, but it came from Aldi.
Okay.
I don't see an Aldi sticker on those. I think you
They
probably get
don't
it from other
they don't sell
places.
alcohol at Aldi in New York State. They don't sell alcohol at grocery stores at all in New
Oh
York
yeah,
State,
that's
except for
right.
like beer.
But like I don't think this is like an Aldi creation. Like I think you can
Mm,
get this at a liquor store or something like.
okay.
If you like, I'm not a big cider person. My dad bought these, and so I'm drinking it because what's cold already.
I have no idea what kind of wine this is. I forgot from the time I came
Red.
upstairs. It is red. It is 67% Cabernet Sauvignon and 33 or 34% Cabernet Franc, whatever the fuck that means, but the brand could not tell you.
I don't love a Cabernet Franc, but yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I haven't been drinking a lot of red lately, but I did forget to keep my wine in the fridge, so I'm having Prosecco. So
Mm.
I'm okay. I am literally, as I said, still like super checked out as a person and just trying to like take it a day at a time. So if you hang in there and you watch Atlantis next week, I will be drinking coffee at 10 p.m.
It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm okay. I think I haven't talked about this a lot yet. But we did book our cruise and we've been planning our cruise for
Um,
November, which I'm
yeah.
very excited about. I think I've just said that we booked it. I think that's all I've told you, like told
Yeah.
most people to an extent. So for post bar, you take a trip. You take a trip. You're usually supposed to take it a little closer to the bar. I'm really bad at that. I tend to take it around the time I get my results, which is neither here nor there. But it is
Right.
does seem to be what I've done every year. Um, and so like the results come back early October, and so this cruise is the first week of November, and it's going to be a true crime cruise. It is no longer the first true crime cruise because Virgin announced 2 weeks ago that they will be having a true crime cruise in October, which
I'm
is
kind of upset that you're going
fine.
on a true crime cruise without me, but that's
I
fine.
know, I know. You had a honeymoon this year, so you couldn't
I
go on a
know.
trip with me.
Ugh,
You
I
told me you
know.
couldn't spend money this year.
I know. It's so
Um,
stupid.
But there'll be more. I don't think that like there's three booked. Like there's three planned right now for October, November, and January. So theoretically, we could go on one next year.
Okay.
Um, so we'll see where things are at and try that. But I'm super stoked because like it's gonna have Sinisterhood, which is we all know my favorite
Yeah.
podcast. And then it has True Crime Campfire, which I didn't know about till this cruise, and I really like them too. They're a little like more like chill, I guess, than most
Okay.
of the podcasts, but really like them. Ed and Henry from Last Podcast on the Left are going to be on it, and Dan and Lindsay from Scared to Death.
Okay.
And
I love
um,
Henry. He's
I
funny.
need to go back and listen to Last Podcast because
I
I sure
I
haven't.
I don't know Ed because
New,
I'm not yet to post Ben last podcast.
yeah.
But I have seen a couple like TikTok videos with Ed in them. So he seems fine. Like I
I
don't know.
listened
But I
to a
I
couple of side stories
love Henry.
because they're going like for side stories, not for like last podcast.
Yeah.
But it's like a branch off the last podcast. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
truly know. And so I usually do start at the beginning, but with like True Crime Campfire, I just started now and I've just been listening for a couple months, so I can like get to know them as people.
Yeah.
And I think I might do that with last podcast too. I think I don't know, but Housewives of True Crime is supposed to be on. They're
Okay.
listed as being on there, but no one is mentioning them in their ads. Like none of
Oh.
the podcasts that I listen to have mentioned them, and I listened to two of their episodes and wanted to kill myself. So like I don't know if they're there or not. And I don't know that I care.
Right.
But I like, but the rest of them are like really good. Like the only one I hadn't heard of other than that was True Crime Campfire, and then I really
Mm.
like them too.
Did
They're really
I
good storytellers.
did I on the podcast at all talk about my obsession with How Did This Get Made?
I don't remember. You have
Okay.
told me before. I do not know if it was
Oh,
on a
okay.
podcast or not.
I was just thinking of podcasts
Um,
that I have recently listened to, and really the only one
mm,
that I've been like really deep into lately is that one, but it's because I'm just obsessed with Jason Mantzoukas on a level that is probably not
yeah, I love
sane.
him. He's amazing. I also love Red Handed, and they're going on the January true crime cruise, and I think
Mm,
I haven't figured out who's like sponsoring what
okay.
because the one I'm going on is Crime Wave at Sea. It is not sponsored by like a network, I don't think, but I think that Wondery might be sponsoring the January because that's what
Okay.
Redheaded's on.
Yeah.
And then the one, I think the Virgin one, which is probably going to be the best because it's Virgin Voyages, but the lineup isn't as good as some other ships. It's just that ship is amazing. Um, I think they're like iHeart and Crime Con are kind of like going in on this one. Because
Uh,
Barry Bones is going to be on there with like so Paul Holes and Kate Dawson, Kate
yeah.
Winslet Dawson are going to be on there, and I love them and I do listen to that podcast a lot. But that's also how I know that they didn't announce till 2 weeks ago. So what I think is they were like, we want to market that we're the first true crime cruise, and then they obviously couldn't get like the top runners because they're booked. Like my favorite partner's not going on a cruise, and that's why we drink's not going on a cruise. But like of the
Yeah.
people that would, they've already gotten booked for other cruises. So,
Right.
um, but I mean, Virgin Voyage is amazing. So I'm super stoked. We paid a little extra to get the like IRL Epic
Oh.
Pass or something, which means we get like first dibs at shows. So we should be able to like make it to everything because we should get first access. Um,
I think was doing the Exhibit C cruise, and I think that they got canceled.
I think that was for this year,
Oh, okay.
next January, because I think they've still talked about it. Um,
Okay.
if it's January 26th, I think it's still happening, but I think there
No,
was
no,
one
the
this year that got canceled.
the one that Buried Bones is on is not canceled, but Wondery's Exhibit C got canceled.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one for Red Handed.
Oh, okay.
But I think that was the one that they were going to do this year, and then they didn't do it this year.
Oh,
Or is
okay,
that the
okay.
2026 one? Because they're supposed to do on January 26th. Um,
No, the 2026 one I think is still. I don't know because like I found an article from February that says Wondery blah blah blah, but then when I clicked on the Exhibit C cruise website, it was like, sorry, this is canceled.
they may not be put on by Wondery. I
Yeah.
may have just made that up
No, no,
because I
no.
know
I
Red
mean,
Handed's Wondery.
no, but I know, but I mean, this is what the
Yeah,
Wondery website is like. Oop, just kidding. No.
yeah. Let's see, Red Handed Cruise, January 2026. Who's putting that on? So it looks like, okay, I see what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Um, and then the January, oh, Scamfluencers is on that one too. And John Walsh is going to be on that one, so that's why that one's. I think that was actually the first one announced.
Hmm.
I wonder if this is, but this is all from February, so I wonder if this is the one that was
Yeah.
canceled. And it's Norwegian. Interesting. Oh, that'd be such a bummer because I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, I'm thinking it got canceled.
Oh man, what a bummer. Oh, I love Red Handed. That would have been the other one I would want to do. I mean, I love John Walsh, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, but so well, mine's not canceled as far as I know. I will throw myself off of ship if it gets canceled. So it
Well,
can't do that.
it can't do that.
But we're like 3 months out. Like it's if it was
Right.
been canceled, it would have been canceled by now, I
Right,
imagine.
right, right. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we paid. Yeah, so we have like extras for like so we can make sure we get like the extra spot, we get the extra like hours, we get the extra event, stuff like that.
Nice,
And
nice, nice,
then
nice.
yeah, so I'm really excited. It's on Royal Caribbean. I've never done Royal Caribbean before. Um, it does just look very generic. I'm like after going on Virgin for 2 years in a row, I'm like,
Well, would you know what ship
where's
it's
my
on?
bougie? Yeah, the Liberty of the Seas.
Okay,
I've been Googling it, and it
because I
just looks
will
so
because I will
generic.
tell you their newest ship, the Utopia.
Oh, I was gonna say the icon is just really nice
The
too.
Utopia. So Brian is on the Utopia, or at least he was. I think his
Hmm.
contract's over, but his girlfriend's contract is happening now. Like they crossed over for a little bit, so Allison's on it, but that ship's beautiful.
I know that one is they're big ships, and they're partnered with Celebrity Cruises, so like they have nice
Yeah.
ships, but their Liberty of the Seas is like their basic one, and it's like made to cruise ship, so I'm sure it's wonderful. It's just
Right.
not like bougie like
Yeah.
virgin. Um, but yeah, so we're planning, and we check in on September 19th. And I will be
Nice.
on that. This is to be Kirsten's first cruise, and we all know me. So
Yeah.
I told her, I was like, it's gonna be a lot because I make sure we do everything. However, you don't have to do anything. Just show up. Like she booked the cruise, she booked our flight, she booked our hotel because
Yeah.
I was taking a bar. And then I was like, now that I'm done with the bar, you just sit back and then you just come along with me. I will make sure all of our schedules are on lock. I will make sure
Mm-hmm.
everything is booked on time. I will make sure anything extra needs to be done is done.
Yeah.
I was like, you just enjoy at this point. And I was like, anytime you get too overwhelmed, you can go take a nap. Like, you have the freedom to do that. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. It's 3 months out. Theoretically, I'll be celebrating passing the bar.
Perfect.
We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
circle back to that. But yeah, so that's how I am. I just want to go on a cruise today and not in November, but here we are. Um, you have a little words of inspiration for me.
Sure. Uh, a good basketball game can have us all on the edge of our seats. Games are about the glory, the pain, and the play-by-play. And then there are the more solitary games, the games we play all by ourselves, the social games, the mind games. We use them to pass the time, to make life more interesting, to distract us from what's really going on. There are those of us who love to play games, any game, and there are those of us who love to play a little too much.
Me. Um, but also that's like spot on. I just finished Candace Parker's memoir, The Can Do
Mm.
Mindset. She was one of the early WNBA players that like really made it big.
Yeah,
She's now not playing. She's like on the board and stuff now. But um very fascinating because I was like, if everybody's talking about the WNBA, I gotta know more about it. So of course I now know everything about it, down
perfect.
to the wire of I've read their CBA that they're up for negotiation the next year about
Of
women's
course. Of
like
course.
money and prioritization and all this stuff. So like I am well versed in
Good.
both the NBA and WNBA player agreements. They
Perfect.
are very long. They're like 350, but I am well versed. So, but it was really good. So if anybody wants to like know more about the WNBA or like kind of the lifestyle or Candace Parker, it's very inspiring. Her book, like as a whole, I obviously don't play basketball, but it was like still inspiring to read. So like it's a really good one. It just came out a month ago, I think. But can't do mindset. Anyways, but we're not here for basketball.
No.
We're here for the DNA Awards. I'm
Woohoo!
dressed what I'm calling athleisure chic
Perfect.
because this top I got from Amazon buying program and it's not quite right. Um, but I like it and it's cute at the top, but it's not quite right at the bottom. And
Mm,
so it's perfect for the podcast because you can only see the top of it.
perfect.
Um, and I've got my black leggings on. So
Perfect. Perfect.
athletes are chic,
Love it.
hundo. So this is my dressing up for the podcast.
Love
And
it.
I'm a prosecco, as I mentioned. So, um, I don't remember how to do this, so we're just gonna see how it goes. Um, this is the DNA Awards, and as you
Yeah.
know, we've watched all of Hannibal, including Hannibal TV show, Clarice TV show, and all of the Hannibal movies from Manhunter,
Hmm.
that's the name of it, right?
Yep.
To Hannibal. And so we have the full Thomas Harris range. I read the first book. I fell
I
apart the next two, but I did read the first book.
yeah. I
Um,
read none of the books. So.
yeah. So now we're gonna go through and figure out what awards we're gonna give for
Perfect.
the different seasons.
Yeah.
So we start with our best and brightest. Who did you give the best director award to?
I chose for Best Director, I chose David Slade.
Okay, yeah,
So David Slade was one of the more prominent directors in the first two seasons of Hannibal. He is the only one who did parts of the first two seasons and didn't touch season three, which we all know how I felt about season three. Um, and
yeah.
I think the cohesion of the first two seasons really just makes a lot of sense. I think that and he like I said, I think he did like maybe almost even half of season one was his direction. So
He's a
he's a good one. Yeah.
yeah. I looked at him too. There were like this ended up being harder for me than I thought it was gonna be
Oh,
because there were a lot of
These DNA awards were probably the hardest ones I've done so far. And that includes the fact that we had to go through
yeah.
8,000 episodes for the last Stargate one.
I know. Right. And not even because of the like mixture of stuff we watched. It was just like such an even mix between some of these people.
Hmm.
And so I went off of a little bit different criteria for who I picked best director for.
Okay.
Even though I did consider David Slade. But I picked Guillermo Navarro. And I don't
Which
know that he's
I looked at him and then said, no.
so I don't know that I picked him as best direction throughout. However, I loved that his direction was consistent throughout, and he was the most horror focused, which I understand is not super necessary for this, but it was
Right.
the most horror focused, and he was very consistent in those elements, even if
Well,
the episodes may or may not
and
make sense where they went.
I will give credit where credit is due that every episode that was directed by Guillermo Navarro, you could watch it and say Guillermo directed this episode. He has a very distinct
Yes.
style and his style was clear. I will give credit there. However, I just didn't care for the direction he went with his episode, so I couldn't choose
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I knew you weren't gonna pick him. I wasn't like, this might be a toss-up. No, I knew you were gonna pick him.
Yeah.
Um, but I just really liked how much he leaned into the horror of it, even
Yeah.
if it wasn't cohesive throughout the show with everyone else's directing. It
Right.
was very clearly, like you said, this is his direction, and he
Yeah.
did a really good job with the horror elements and what you want from watching a horror show. And so that's why I picked him. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
for just a classic style. Um, this one, this one might be a little bit closer. Who did you pick as your writer?
So this one I struggled with a lot actually.
Okay.
Because especially because in the TV show of Hannibal, which for the most part, most of what we enjoyed the most was the TV show.
Mhm.
But there were so many episodes that included so many writers and so many pieces being put together. I actually went in a very different direction for who I thought was the
Okay.
best writer. It is not somebody from any of the TV shows. Um, I chose Ted Talley. And I chose Vitali because
Nice.
he wrote two of the five movies,
Hmm.
and the movie that he chose not to write. He specifically, I was reading interviews with him where he was like, I hated the story and I couldn't get behind writing that story. And he goes, and I felt bad about how much I hated it because I felt like I owed something to Thomas to be able to tell the story, but I couldn't do that. And I know he wrote Silence of the Lambs and he wrote
Red Dragon.
Red Dragon. And so then it was, and so it was Hannibal that he said he could not tell that story.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I hated that movie and I hated the story that it told, whereas the other two, I enjoyed the
Yeah.
story. So, like, I really liked that he took the best of Thomas Harris and put it in a way that everyone loves those movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I very much agree with that. On that same note, it hurt me not to pick Ridley Scott as best director.
Which
And
is
so much
so
because
fair.
he's Ridley Scott.
Right.
And I was like, and it's not even that he did bad direction on that film.
Mm.
It was just, it was
It
just
was just
that.
the direction of the TV show was so different and so good.
Yeah, and that's and I was like, I literally I have it in parentheses here, like just in case I change my mind. Just in case I change my mind to Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Um and so I did try to think about that as well. I didn't consider Ted Tally at all. And I don't know why, because that is A great pick. That was a
Yeah.
great pick.
Well, I
Um,
went through the list. I was like scrolling through the list of the Hannibal episodes and I scrolled through them like 3 times and I
yeah.
just kept going back and forth. And I was like, do I go with Steve Lightfoot? Do I go with Brian Fuller? And then I go and then I looked and because I had the Wikipedia for the TV show, the
Me
Wikipedia for the
too.
Hannibal film universe, and the Wikipedia for Clarice all open together. And so I kept scrolling, and then I switched tabs and then I looked at the fact that Ted wrote both of those movies and I go, you know, there's no point in trying to like dabble with who I might like more in the TV show when
Yeah.
we all know that Hannibal only exists because Ted Talley wrote those movies.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I no, that's I didn't even look at the movies. I did do this for the directors, but I didn't do it for the movies because I already knew what writer I was going to pick.
okay.
And I wasn't scrolling through it. And as you mentioned, of course, I picked Steve Lightfoot. I don't think this show would have had any cohesion were it
No.
not for Steve Lightfoot. He
100.
didn't write every episode, but he did write a lot. And
Yes.
he wrote his writing didn't suffer even when he wrote with a lot of different people because he
Hmm.
did have the most collaborations and you could tell there were writers that we didn't love and you could tell when they had more influence even if he was a co-writer
Yeah.
because their styles were so uniquely bad. I don't want to say
Hmm.
it quite that way but that's what it is.
Yeah, it's what it is.
um and so I really felt like he held the show because we love Brian Fuller, of course we love Brian Fuller,
We
we
have
know he
spent
didn't hold
hours of
it
this
together.
podcast talking about how much we love Brian Fuller, but we've also in those hours explained that Brian Fuller has never held a shoestring together.
Exactly. So we know that he's not the one that held it together. So I truly think Steve Lightfoot is the heart of the show when it comes to writing. Like he's the reason we have
Yeah.
Hannibal, even when we have our highs and lows.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked him.
Perfect.
So now we get into our best and worst, besties worsties, as I now call them today.
Perfect.
um, what did you decide was your best episode?
So I wrote the name of the episode, and that's all I wrote. I didn't write any information as to why I chose this episode, so now I have to figure out what the episode was.
What's the name of it?
Taikawasi.
Nope, that's not. I have two, and that wasn't one of them.
So that is, I know it's season 2 because it's one of the Japanese
Mhm.
episodes. Uh, but oh, I do know what episode this is. This is the episode in season 2 where two very, very big things happen. And that is both Beverly and Will discovering that Hannibal is a cannibal. Like
Yeah,
it is the episode that ends with the gunshot from above the floor and us not knowing what happens to Beverly. And I chose that episode because it was a very well written episode. It was a very well shot episode. It was stunning, but also it was the episode where I realized I was 100% in on the
yeah.
show.
So I also picked an episode for that same reason, which is fun. Mine is a little more cliche, but it is what it is. I picked the season 1 finale, and
Okay,
like it just
totally fair.
is what sent me. Like, I mean, we loved the first season. There was nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it, but by the end of the first season, there was just like this feeling I got where I was just like, everything's okay. Like, this is okay. We're going in a good direction. This is a
Hmm.
good show. Like, I'm not
Totally fair.
worried about it. And
I
like,
I really only looked at the second half of season 1 and the first half of season 2 for where I was going to pick an episode because I knew that was the sweet spot for the
yeah,
show. But I think we all remember how I felt about Beverly as season 1.5
yeah,
went on. But I remember distinctly sitting on the couch at Dan's old apartment and that episode ended. And I just like at that moment and how I felt in that moment when that episode, when Taikawasi ended, was I was like, that was when I was like, oh, I am
yeah,
in this show.
yeah. No, I totally feel that. I will say the other one that I played around with was probably not the best episode overall, but it like I picked Fromage, which was the musical episode where we had the
Oh,
violin and stuff, and like
yeah.
it just felt different. Like we've
Yeah.
already had dark stuff, we'd already had that angel episode, like we already have all this stuff happening.
It did. It
But
felt
it was
very,
something
yeah.
like beautiful about it too, which is where I was
Hmm.
like, oh, we've hit a conundrum. Like this is where we are in this show.
Yeah.
So that was the other one I was thinking about, but I was like, I really think the finale is what
Yeah.
set me because I feel like I was like kind of on pins and needles the first season. No one really liked it. You never know what's gonna happen. You
Right.
never know. You have to see an ending before you know what's like
Yeah,
coming. And so like
100%.
I really felt like that was what it was. I guess I'll do worse first. We're supposed to alternate, and
But
I forgot.
that's totally fine.
So I picked for my worst episode Secundo, which is season 3, episode 3.
Okay.
Um, because it was already not great going well.
Yeah.
We're season 3 in
Mhm.
episode 3. But this is also the episode where like Will takes off to go to Hannibal's house and Jack goes to Italy. And I'm like, no one knows where they are, what's going on. We're just
Yeah.
throwing people in different directions.
Yeah.
There's no need for this. And it was just like our already falling apart storyline has just gone off the rails.
Which is
Um,
so fair. I I couldn't I could not choose, despite how much I hated season 3 of Hannibal, I could not choose a single Hannibal episode in good faith while knowing the entirety of season 1 of Clarice existed.
yes, yes.
So
I have comments when you're done.
I chose Silence is Purgatory, which was the episode in Clarice where oh gosh, what is her name? The trans woman loses her shit about how Buffalo Bill
Yeah.
was a hate crime against all trans people.
Jane, Jay, something with a J, right?
Something with a J. Julia. It was Julia.
Julia.
Um, and it was a terrible episode. It was a terrible episode. It was terribly written. It was basically a political speech in the guise of an episode. And also the plot had completely fallen apart at that point. I don't want to go too much into it because I literally spent so much time screaming about this episode that it is painful
Yeah.
to even think about. But not only was the like in that episode the plot had gone off the rails, but at least the acting was still good and the
Yeah.
artistic direction still existed. This was a fail on every facet of an episode. So
See, I gosh, my phone thinks I'm talking to it way more than I am. Like specifically this past week. But I thought about Grace, obviously. But I was like, there was so much that like I don't know that I could rate one under another. And so I was
mhm.
like, I can't pick a focus because like even with the early episodes, we're like, those were better. But I'm like, you specifically wrote these episodes to go with these other episodes and nothing went together. And so like
Yeah,
even if they're good as a standalone, they're not good for the show. Like
correct.
and so I had such a hard time that like I was like I can't possibly pick a worst episode of Clarice.
Which it totally is fair. It totally is fair though. The whole thing
Yeah.
is I felt in a similar way that how could I ever say something in Hannibal was the
Right.
worst episode of the Hannibal universe when Clarice existed. However, that doesn't mean
Yeah.
picking the worst episode of Clarice was easy. Just for me,
Sure.
it felt like how could I do that?
Yeah.
But I get your point. There was 13 shitty episodes. Like
Right. Right. Yeah. No, and I did feel bad, and then I decided on the episode I was going with, and I was like, a little less
yeah, I'm
bad.
gonna feel a little less bad because that one
A
was
little less
not
bad.
good.
Yeah. All right. So who did you pick for your best guest star?
Courtney already knows who I picked for this one because I texted her yesterday and was like, how small of a role do we mean when we say guest star to pick this? Because I went with Raul Esparza as Dr. Chilton. His acting, his journey, I mean, it's Raul Esparza. We all know how we feel
Right.
about him, but the way he made you love hate him, even though his character is just not a good character at all. Like it has to be
Yeah,
Raoul.
that's totally fair. And also to be fair, I did look up like list of guest stars, and he was on there. So like
Okay.
literally everybody except like our main five were on there. So I was like,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, I was right when I said that.
Okay.
So I struggled a little bit because I was between two people. Um, because I love Gillian Anderson. I'm not picking her, which is really hurting my heart. But I went with
See, but
Regina George.
I don't consider Bedelia, even though she's not one of the main five, I don't consider Bedelia a guest star. I think she's too integral to the story.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, but I think Chilton was too. I think they were
Yeah.
as equally. integrated at different
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Um, but so I went with Richard Armitage, and I just love him. And I mean, he won Emmys for this role. I also, as soon as I finished this, listened to the audiobook Beautiful Ugly, and he narrates it, which then I was just like, I love him again. Um,
See, I didn't, but I also didn't love the Manhunter part of Hannibal anyway.
yeah. I mean,
So,
I didn't love that storyline. I just love him. And I think
yeah.
seeing him, like, it's very possible because I had three things back to back that I watched then. And so I kind
Yeah.
of saw his range because he also is in a limited series on Netflix that I watched, like,
Okay.
right after. And so I'm seeing him in like three different roles and his like range. And to see where he goes in these like more generic roles he's playing to playing Dollar High, it felt
Yeah.
like a really good like job for him, I guess. And so
Okay. That's
yeah,
totally fair. It's totally fair.
yeah. So my worst guest star, who was someone I thought I was gonna be really stoked about, and was just mad the whole time, was Cynthia Nixon. I hated her as Katie Farrell. I just hated her as Katie Farrell.
Yeah.
And I hated her acting as Katie Farrell. Like, I just never wanted her on my screen.
No.
Which
Yeah.
is a bummer because I do love Cynthia Nixon in
Right.
general, like in the real world. But God, I hated her in this role. So,
No. I think I couldn't get over how much I hated Clarice, because I just realized that like all of my worsts are from
yeah.
Clarice.
Which is totally fair.
I do understand what you're saying because Cynthia Nixon's character was a terrible character, and in all of the things I've seen her act in, it was one of her worst acting jobs.
Absolutely.
Um, but I picked Douglas Smith, who played Ty in
Mm,
Clarice,
yeah.
because I never once believed a single thing he said in an
No.
already unwatchable story.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great pick. He's an excellent pick. Um, so what is your best plot?
I this one was hard for me. Because I
Mm,
feel like a lot of the plots are so large and intricate and take up entire seasons that it's hard to like call them a single plot line. And I didn't want to pick like a standalone episode plot line as the best plot because I feel like that goes back into best episode. And then there were some things where like I could be like, oh, the Red Dragon story, because I could call it the best because we saw it 5 times. But so I
yeah.
went, so it was this one was one of the harder ones for me, but I went with the the arc of Will's encephalitis breakdown. So basically like the particularly Will's mental state in the second half of season one. So not necessarily the actual crime solving or the Hannibal part of it, but the acting and the way Hannibal manipulated him and the way Will reacted to it, just the encephalitis breakdown at the end of season one was as a whole was my best plotline.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. I'll have more to say about that.
Oh boy.
um, I do mention it in my notes.
Oh.
I think it might be controversial. It might not be what everyone else would think is the best pick, but
Okay.
plotline overall, I picked Bedelia and Hannibal's therapeutic relationship because I really
That's
like
interesting. That's an interesting
because it's
take.
not well, like the thing is like if you see the development, I understand that they didn't do it super well, like especially towards the end.
Yeah.
But the way the plot was actually developed, like meant to be developed, I guess, like you see them as typical therapists, and then you see how they really were kind of working together, and then you see the manipulation, and it just had like such an evolution in it that was in some moments really small, and some moments too in your face.
Yeah.
Um, but as a plot, I really liked that one because it gave us another
Okay.
layer of Hannibal that we don't get in anything else.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't love it, but I don't
Yeah.
disagree that it's an interesting look at things. But
So
yeah.
my worst plot is the encephalitis plot. So
Oh,
here's why. Here's why.
okay.
I do not disagree with you. The acting is incredible that Hugh Dancy does for this section. No doubt, no question
Okay.
there. However, why does it exist and why do we forget it exists? Like
That's
we
fair.
have this
That's fair.
plot line.
I said specifically in season one. When we get to season two and it stops
Right.
existing, that is a problem. But for those like last three episodes of season one, I appreciate it.
Which is totally fair. It just ends up being underdeveloped and forgotten. And that that upset me because it would have been genius to, especially because then you have like we switch over to the like psychopathy side of Will, I guess, as opposed to this like disease he had. And I'm like, there's no reason you couldn't have been like, so that disease has like melded parts of his mind in these certain ways. I'm like, it
Hmm.
should have been more developed than it was. It shouldn't have been a 3 episode arc if they were
That's
going to do
fair.
it.
That's fair. Because I will say, the apathy disease that
Mhm.
Will has or doesn't have or
Yeah.
whatever was very close to being my biggest plot hole of the show.
Yeah.
It was in my short list for that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. So that's why it's the worst for me. What is your worst?
my worst is only my worst because of how it developed, not in the same way and not necessarily what it was or why it existed, but again, because all of my worsts come from Clarice. Ardelia's lawsuit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, because I have no problem with Ardelia standing up for herself and wanting representation in and everything. And like, I didn't even really mind the Black Coalition and blah, blah, blah. But the
Right.
way they used this lawsuit to theoretically drive a wedge between Ardelia and Clarice, and then it never did, and then it also never developed, and then it
Yeah.
also never did anything except for like continue to be talked about randomly, awkwardly as an additional thing to make sure Ardelia had screen time. It was just,
Right.
it was, it had potential. It was one of the few things in the show that had potential, even though I didn't particularly care for it in terms of the story I wanted them to be telling. It had potential to create drama and actual tension, and then it didn't.
Well, also, and it made her character fall more flat because we didn't develop that. Her character had a lot of potential.
Hmm.
Like she had the potential to be Clarice's partner in crime, basically,
She
and to do
well,
this, to be the
and then they
fuller,
took
like,
her and then they took her in that direction by having her secretly go behind her boss's back and work with Kremler's team and
mhm.
blah blah blah. But they used this as like a building block for fabricated tension and then didn't do that.
Yeah.
So it was just a waste.
Mhm.
It literally was just there to give her moments to have a social justice soapbox, which was dumb because they spent a lot of the show just giving people unnecessary social justice soapboxes, so they could have just kept
Right.
doing that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
No, that's definitely a good one. That's definitely a good one. So who is your best Mason?
for my best Mason Verger, I chose Joe Anderson, who plays the
Okay.
deformed Mason in the TV show. And I
Yeah.
think I struggled a little bit with going back and forth between Gary Oldman and Joe Anderson because I think that that version of Mason when he's in his deformed state and we really get to see him being loopy and cuckoo bananas is fascinating. But because the TV show had the ability to spend so much time with that distorted version of Mason and the back and forth with how where he was about like I'm gonna kill and rape everyone, but then also Jesus loves me. Like we got so much of that in the show that I really had to give it to Joe Anderson for that
Yeah.
depth.
That's totally fair. I love Carrie Oldman, obviously.
Obviously.
Um, that is the other choice if you're not gonna, if I wasn't gonna
Yeah.
pick Joy Anderson. I I just think that he did such an incredible role, and he's just such an incredible
Oh
actor
yeah.
that like anytime I see him in a role that's not the same, I mean, he does so many different roles too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has such variety in his work. that this just felt like it hit another notch on the
Oh, I
belt for him.
mean,
Like,
the way you felt about not choosing Gillian Anderson is how I feel about not choosing
right.
Gary Oldman. But I
Yeah.
really just thought Joe Anderson had more screen time to develop it, and
Mhm.
if Gary Oldman had had more time as Mason, I could have gone there.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah,
So, obviously my worst pick was Michael Pitt.
yeah, same.
Um, I mean, it just is. He was fine. I didn't
He was
hate him.
fine.
He's
I
not the
didn't hate
worst
him,
person.
but also I don't think Mason is interesting until after his accident.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, so I
which is
I
not Michael
didn't
Pitt's fault.
right.
But I just it's just true. When
He
there's three
crumbles.
actor choices and Joe Anderson and Gary Oldman are your other two, you are the worst.
Right.
Sorry.
Like it sucks, but it just is what it
Yeah.
is. So now what about Paul Cridlin?
I chose for best Paul Cundler Michael Cudlitz. Um, I
Me too.
I have some concerns with the direction the show went. I don't love the way Clarice handled things. Obviously, we've said that about 80 times so far this episode, but I do think that, again, sometimes you just have more time to flesh out a character in a TV show. And despite the fact that they took out a lot of the best of him in the deleted scenes and things, I do think that the TV show version of Paul Krendler was a much better character.
Yeah, and I think that like also if you look at what Michael Phelps had to work with this
Hmm.
like ever-changing Paul Cridlin and deciding is he terrible or good,
Yeah.
he didn't make it feel as bipolar as it was written, which
Oh
is
no,
like feels
even
like
when he was written as an asshole, I still was intrigued in the performance.
yeah, and I felt like he still tried to maintain some kind of consistency throughout,
Hmm.
even when it wasn't written that way.
Yeah,
And I think that that was an actor that felt more like an actor choice
it
than a
did.
director or writer
It felt
choice.
like he was I mean, and to be fair, he is a cut above everyone else who was in that show
Right.
and
Sure.
it was apparent.
Yeah. So I'm sure we share the same words, but it's Ray Liotta. R.I.P.
Oh yeah. R.I.P.
I
Ray
love him
Liotta, but
dearly.
the portrayal of Ray Liotta, first of all, I couldn't really call the Paul Crenler in Silence of the Lambs the worst because I literally forgot he existed.
Right,
Um,
same. I did too. We talked about this
um,
before we recorded.
but Ray Liotta just he made Paul Crenler so sleazy in a way
Yeah.
that didn't feel natural.
And I do think that that's probably actually more how he was written. Again, I haven't read
That
enough
book.
of like
Yeah.
his book, but like I think that is probably more of how he was written based on the general vibes I know that came from that book.
Right.
Um, and so I don't want to blame Ray Liotta for it, but also like it wasn't a good portrayal at all. And
Mm-mm.
like it just is what it is.
Like and it whether this was because of the way he was written or the way he was acted, when Hannibal was literally chopping Ray Liotta's head off, I didn't feel bad or care that he was gonna die. And
Right.
that
I mean, I
is
was a little concerned how he was gonna get, but that was
right, right.
it.
But like I was like, cool, chop his head off. He's a douche. And like
Yeah.
that's not how you should feel about a
Mm-mm.
character.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. All right.
So
So coming down to our top three, who did you pick for Will as your best?
I don't think there's really a question. I picked Hugh Dancy.
Sure.
Um,
Yes.
I don't think that Will Graham in the movies matters.
I don't think so either. Even the ones that like I know Red Dragon and Manhunter were both about Will Grant, but they did feel like it. Like,
No, they didn't feel like it. They felt like Will
yeah.
Graham was a piece of Hannibal's story.
Yeah.
Hannibal, the TV show, feels like Hannibal is a piece of Will's story.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I think that that is Hugh Dancy.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I picked you Dancy. I think this is a little bit of a tighter call who's the worst one, but I did go with Bill Peterson. He felt out of sorts for the character. Like he was a little bit older than Will Graham is meant to be, and he was a little more like, I'm a detective. And like, Will, that's not really Will. Like, he is, you know, theoretically retired or separated from the FBI, but he's not like an old beat cop who is now coming back to solve this massive serial killer crime, which is kind of how Bill Peterson portrayed him.
Which is
And
which is interesting because I did not pick Will Peterson. I picked Edward Norton. Mostly, I mean,
just
let's be
love Edward
honest,
Norton.
I hate Edward Norton. I think he's a
I
terrible
know.
actor and a terrible person. And this is not the first time I've said that. But I actually think that because I've never read the books and I hadn't really seen any of the movies until after the TV show, I had a much easier time believing that the Hugh Dancy version of Will could age into the Will Peterson version of Will than the Edward Norton version of Will. Like in my mind, the Will that I know that has been created in my head because of the TV show being my first experience was more likely to be a jaded cop who's done with it, who is over it and just wants to build his boat in Florida and be fucking done, than the anxiety that Ed Norton still had. Like, because even I think in the TV show, by the end of
Yeah.
season 3, Will is fucking tired. Will is tired. He's still fucked up,
Yeah.
but he's exhausted. And I don't
Yeah.
see that exhaustion in Edward Norton's character.
Yeah, which is totally fair. It's
Yeah.
totally fair. Um, I mean, I didn't love either of the movie ones, but
No.
I just couldn't go
You
deep
just
enough.
you just
I didn't
believed the
feel.
character more as Edward Norton, which is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. So now we have Clarice.
Hmm.
Who did you think is your best?
I did pick Jodie Foster. Despite the fact that I had a lot of negative things to say about Jodie Foster after we watched Silence of the Lambs, I think I just have a lot of negative things to say about Clarice as a character. I don't like her as a character in any portrayal of her. She doesn't make sense to me. Um, but Jodie Foster played young and truly naive. And I think that that is the character, at least in that period of her life. She genuinely gets taken by Hannibal because she has the potential, but has no idea that she has the potential. And I think that naivety was only portrayed by Jodie Foster.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I like movie wise Julianne Moore's character the best, but I don't think it's the best portrayal of Clarice.
Right.
Like because of all the reasons you're saying, and I don't know what I would cast Jodie Foster Clarice like in the beginning. But I agree that that character and that style was the closest to what Clarice is meant to be.
Yeah.
Um, and otherwise, I would have gone Julianne Moore just because I did like her portrayal the best. I just don't feel like
Mhm.
it was the truest.
Which
Um,
is fair.
yeah. So I mean,
I,
obviously, that I'm leaving the worst is Rebecca. She was so inconsistent and
which I actually didn't pick her as the worst. I did pick Julianne Moore. And part of that is exactly what you're saying. Julianne Moore is a wonderful actress, but I didn't believe, like, if forget the TV show, I would like to pretend it doesn't exist. If I just watched the two movies, I would not believe that those were the same character
absolutely,
in any way, shape, or form.
yeah,
There is parts of Rebecca's character that are true to Jodie Foster. There are parts that
right.
aren't because the TV show's written so badly, but I don't really blame her for that because I really do think she was trying. I don't think she
Yeah, and
did
that's
well,
fair.
but
Right.
I don't I don't think that Julianne Moore's character is Clarice. Like if you said who's the worst acting, I would have to give it to Rebecca, but as the worst portrayal
Right.
of that character, I think I have to pick Julianne Moore because I just don't believe that that's the same character.
And that's totally fair. I felt like Rebecca's Clarice should have had more elements that had some of the Julian Moore elements just because you're past this and you're kind of still acting like you're before it a lot of the time.
Which
And I'm
is
like, that's not
totally
who
fair.
you are now. Like you have the elements, and I don't think she'd be as hard ass as like Julian Moore by any means. But like she doesn't show development from before and after, I feel like. And it's
Hmm.
inconsistent, which is the writing, not her fault again. Um, but like you're not still playing Jodie Foster Clarice at this point.
Right.
You should have been changed by this massive, massive event that happened in your life.
Yeah.
And you're trying to play Jodie Foster Clarice in this storyline that doesn't really fit for it. Um,
Right.
and so that's why I didn't
That's
think her.
totally
Which again
fair.
is probably a lot of the writing fault and probably not super her fault, but
Yeah.
just what it is how it goes. So now what's your favorite Hannibal?
This was difficult. Not because it was difficult for me to pick. It was not very difficult for me to pick. I have an answer. It's mostly that I feel bad about my answer
I know.
because I picked Mads Mikkelsen.
Sure, of course you did. Of course you did. He is the most enjoyable one to watch and the most developed because we got a whole show of him.
Right, we got a whole show of him. We got more time. We he is more, I believe that he is who he is and how he got there. That's not to say that if I had seen pre-Silence of the Lambs Anthony Hopkins, which we don't ever
Yeah,
see, I couldn't also be charmed by him. But we only ever see Anthony Hopkins play the post breakdown Hannibal. And so I have a hard time because I am so wrapped into an understanding why people fell for Hannibal when I see Mads Mikkelsen's portrayal. And I don't ever get that aspect of it from Anthony Hopkins. And that makes him a less believable psychopath in my estimation, which is not his acting. It is just where in Hannibal's story we get to see him.
that is totally fair. I knew you were gonna pick Mass. I'm not like that is a fine pick. I struggled on who I was gonna pick. I did pick Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah,
And I do think it's because I think he is truest to Thomas Harris' character of
which
Hannibal.
is totally
I
fair.
think, and that's truly the only decision I could make on this one because I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know what to do.
Which
So
which is fair
I
because
only
I've
picked him
never read
because
any
he
of the
is
books.
truest.
I've never read any of the books. I don't
Right.
have Thomas Harris's language or intentions in my head. And so for me, it's what do I
Yeah.
believe? Who do I believe would have gotten away with it? Who do I feel who
Right.
would have pulled the wool over my eyes if I were Jack, if I were Will, if I were Clarice? And for me, Moss is the only one who does that.
Right. And that's totally fair. I think that's an excellent choice. I love him, obviously. For worst, I picked Aaron Thomas. Um, he was Hannibal Rising.
Hmm.
But you could have there were two of them. You could have picked either probably, but I believe he was the older one that you actually see more of.
Oh, I thought that was Gav.
Unless I got my characters.
Was that Gava Hunamaj, the one who I can't ever say his name?
Let's see, because I for sure was trying to pick the older one.
I just
Gaspard is the one
yeah,
who's very
Gaspard. Gaspard is the one who's for most of the movie.
that's the one I meant to pick.
Okay.
Yeah, Gaspard Diao. Yeah, he is who I picked as
Which
my
is totally
worst.
fair. That movie was
And
terrible. That
yeah,
movie was terrible. I thought about that because that movie was so bad. But despite how bad that movie was and how much I didn't like it, I once again understood that character in the context of what that movie wanted me to think that character was.
that's
I
fair.
I chose Brian Cox.
That's that is the right answer. I just really hate Hannibal
Which
Rising.
is so
Um,
fair. Hannibal Rising was an atrocious movie, but if you pull it apart from the Hannibal universe and look at it as a standalone film, the acting is not bad. The character, as is portrayed and explained in that movie, is not bad. However, Brian Cox is not Hannibal.
I was just not. That is the correct answer.
You
I'm
just
just mad
hated
about
Hannibal. I mean,
just
I
hating
hated
this.
Hannibal Rising too. I hated it so much, and I felt so confused by the fact that there was no other screenwriter than Thomas Harris because how did that happen? How did that man who wrote the books, who made the most famous villain in cinematic history, write that movie?
Awful. It was very bad. Um, so what's your biggest plot hole?
So, like I said, I almost went with Will's mental disorders and what they are.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, the entirety of Clarice is a plot hole. But I chose something that is probably not as important to everyone else. It is not really like the story still exists, whether it happens or not, but it irks me to no end. And that is the geography of the United States in season one of Hannibal.
That is one of the big so I'm not gonna lie, I searched biggest plot holes in Hannibal to see which one I was gonna pick. And that is one of the top ones that people talked about.
Because they like go to northern Minnesota and in an hour, and then they have like beaches in West Virginia, and they're like in Iowa, and like 10 minutes later are back in DC, and it's just so confusing, and never is the location important enough for you to have picked a place that far away from DC. All of it could have been in Virginia and DC, and it would have changed zero of the
0%.
story,
Yeah.
except for that they wanted it to be more widespread of a serial killer, which isn't even psychologically correct about serial killers. They don't
Mhm.
spread that far until they're close to being caught. And there was no chance of him being caught. So to have him spread in 8 states makes fucking none of the sense. And I
Yeah.
know that there are some much more integral to the storytelling plot holes, but I can't get over how much that doesn't make sense.
It's okay. I also one that wasn't like super integral to the storyline, but it transfers from both the show and the movie. Um, is the Dr. Fell storyline that no one knew, like, recognized Hannibal is not Dr. Fell.
So okay,
And
I also looked at Reddit and saw what people were saying about plot holes about the show. And
mhm,
apparently, if you actually read all of the novels, there is a very valid explanation for why no one knows what Dr. Fell looks like. However, neither the movie nor the show made it make any sense.
did they say what the reason was?
I didn't
Or
read
they
that
just said
deep
it
into
was?
it.
No, okay.
I didn't read that deep into it. I just saw that somebody said if you read the novels, blah blah blah, like and started to go into it and then didn't feel like
Yeah.
reading the whole paragraph. But also, you're right. What?
Like, and especially like you have people who apparently recognize him as the monster because this detective did. So like
You're
this
telling me
picture's been posted
you're
places.
telling me nobody outside of this detective has ever had any experience with Hannibal the first time he was in Italy, and nobody in the entirety of Milan has ever seen Dr. Fell.
Right. Like, come on, bro. This is
Yeah.
not
No,
realistic, even if there's a good explanation in the book. So, I did go with that one.
that's totally fair. I laughed when I started reading that one because I was like, huh, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Mm.
I saw that and I was like, no, I don't even care what these other ones are. That is 100% the one I want to go with.
Yeah.
Um, so now we go to best acting. I'll start here. This is specific but not.
Okay.
That makes sense. I picked the best acting. Um, Mads Mikkelsen specifically in the really dark Hannibal scenes. Like
Okay.
when we have the fight scenes where he's kind of like losing it a little bit, but he never quite loses like
Okay.
his hold on
Yeah.
reality. Like he, even though he looks crazed, he's covered in blood, like he's still composed in a sense.
Hmm.
And I thought that that was really well done.
Yeah. I also chose a Mads Mikkelsen moment, but I actually went in the complete opposite direction. I went in
Hmm.
the least Hannibal-esque moment of the show. And I will say I was inspired by a Reddit post about choosing this because I was reading about other people's like favorite moments, and I
Yeah.
read this post and I was like, you know what? It had been on my list of things I was thinking about, but it really did. And that is the moment in season 2 when Hannibal almost accidentally tells Will that he is behind everything and
Mm,
apologizes for Abigail. And he was what he's Will is complaining about like having lost this idea of being a father and blah blah blah. And what Hannibal actually says is, I'm sorry that I took that away from you. And it's the
Yeah.
only time he ever has a genuine apology in the entirety of the show. And it's the only time that he ever admits that he did anything.
Yeah.
And it's this moment where despite the fact that he is supporting Will and like caring for him and saying what he knows Will needs to hear, there's a piece of him that recognizes that he genuinely hurt Will. And it's the only time he's ever recognized that anybody else's pain matters.
Matters.
And there's like a just the way that Mads Mikkelsen portrays this like genuine remorse and then immediately pulls his wall back up because he almost went a step too far is so subtle, but
Hmm.
so indicative of the what Mads Mikkelsen is carrying in the multitude of layers of this character.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent scene.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I love that. Um, so we're down to our last three. We have our ultimate MVP,
Yeah.
our ultimate punch in the face, and our double helix. Um, I'll let you start with the ultimate MVP,
Okay.
who you've chosen.
Um, I don't think mine makes any sense.
Okay.
Because truthfully, when you look at it as a whole, it doesn't actually make sense. It is not. But again, we go back to when did I know or I feel like I was actually invested in these characters and everything. And so I chose Beverly Katz as my ultimate MVP because, like I said, she was what made me realize I cared. But also, at the end of the day, she is the only character in all three seasons of Hannibal, and every single person who has ever interacts with Hannibal, she is the only character who was never swayed in any direction other than what is the truth. She
Yeah.
was upset with Will
Yeah.
because the facts pointed in one direction, but then when she found out that there were other facts, she immediately went back to Will. She was never, ever swayed by her emotions. She was never, ever swayed by any of the narcissism and psychopathy that everyone else in the show was victim of, whether it be someone else's or their own. She was the only true straight man that had any weight in the show.
Yeah. I mean, she's an excellent choice. I thought you might pick her. But she's yeah, I mean, I think that's valid.
Mhm.
I didn't go with her. I did
Well,
go
I
with
think there's a lot of
Will.
better people. I think there's a lot of better and more relevant people, but for me, I just everyone in the show's a fucking psychopathic narcissist, and she's the only one who
Yeah.
like was a person.
Well, this is your MVP,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
want to do whoever you love.
Yeah.
So I went with Hannibal. Like, there's just so much depth. There's no show without Hannibal.
Oh,
You
I
have the
know.
Mads Mikkelsen, you have Anthony Hopkins, you have these like insane portrayals, and you just have this like, you can't help but feel compassion and hate at the same time for this character. Like, Hannibal's my MVP.
Okay.
I understand he killed everyone and he's a bad person. I do logically understand that. I wouldn't like let him free or anything, but
Yeah. I'm not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna judge you because I when we get to my double helix, you'll understand why I can't judge.
um so my punch in the face is gonna be Dr. Chilton. I
Okay.
hate that man more than I hate most people in the world, almost as much as I hate Kinsey. I just want to punch him so hard.
Mine is also someone that I just hate unreasonably, think made the worst decisions ever, is a terrible character and was both acted, written, and portrayed not great. And that is Alana Bloom.
Yeah, bro, that's a good pick. It's a good pick.
So bad.
Off the
So bad.
walls. Off the wall. Cannot with her. Yeah, excellent
I don't
pick.
understand how you sleep with Will, Hannibal, and Margot and
And
still think you're
Margot?
sane.
Right. I think somehow you're not a problem.
Right.
Like, um, yes, correct. All right, so what's your double helix?
So my double helix is very related to your ultimate MVP. And because
Okay.
I wrote for my double helix, I give the award to specifically to Hannibal's teetering on sympathetic in seasons 1 and 2. Because the number of times that we watched an episode and I was like, but I kind of I kind of am with him. I get it. I'm behind it. And I was like, is he really gonna be the bad guy? The ability to make him sympathetic and for us to get why he's doing the things he's doing despite being absolutely awful and genuinely questioning whether the show was going to somehow make him a hero instead of a villain is my MVP of the Hannibal universe.
That's totally fair. Mine is it's kind of split, so I'm gonna just cheat a little bit. But I I want to give it to the creators of the universe. So I want this like Thomas Harris and Brian Fuller are my double helix
Okay.
because obviously we would not have this universe without Thomas Harris.
100%.
And there's just something when Brian Fuller puts his touch on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we wouldn't have had the show, we wouldn't have had this backstory line that really like the movies are fine on their own, but it really enhances the storyline.
Yeah.
And without this, like, there's a lot of prequels we don't need. There's a lot of sequels we don't need.
Yeah.
This is what we needed. Like,
Yes.
this was
Yes.
so well done and so well, like, made. And like, so I think for creating these worlds for us, I'm giving it to Thomas Harris and Brian Fuller.
That is so valid.
So, that's the DNA Awards. We did it. We made it through Hannibal.
We sure did.
We're getting a little breather. We're gonna watch American Horror Story Coven starting next week. It's gonna be a fun time. I've obviously seen it. I think I've seen it twice, but I've definitely seen it once.
Okay.
MK has obviously not seen it. Um,
Yes.
so that'll happen soon.
Okay.
It's a wild ride, and oh my gosh, being set in New Orleans, I have so many tales to tell.
I was like, I mean, I've even been to half of the places that they talk about in the show in New Orleans, and I don't have nearly the New Orleans experience you do. So like, this is gonna be so exciting.
Yeah, so it's gonna be really fun. There's gonna be a lot of I'm gonna do my best to insert a lot of history, a lot of like take out all the little pieces because what I think about American Horror Story is it weaves so much in that even some of the math stuff doesn't like it doesn't come out because it's in focus, but I want to be able to pull it apart so you can see all the pieces
Okay.
that they've really put in. So we'll see how well I do, but theoretically that's what I'm gonna do. I also want to recommend because how much we hated Clarice, if you need a sequel to a procedural, Ballard just came out and it's a spinoff of Bosch. I have not watched Bosch yet. I did not realize this was a spinoff. I watched it. And then Harry Bosch shows up and I'm like, oh, this is a spinoff. Incredible. Really well
Okay.
done. Great main cast. It's on Amazon Prime. It does have it seems some remnants of Bosch. Of course, as I said, I haven't watched it, but Bosch does show up a couple times.
Okay.
But that's the police procedural sequel that we all needed.
Okay.
So I highly recommend. Do you have any last minute thoughts about our Hannibal universe before we send it away?
I I will both miss and I'm very glad to be done with it, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. It's a lot. And
Yeah.
it doesn't quite feel the same as when we did like Bates Motel was 5 seasons and we had movies, like, but it wasn't
But to be fair, we only
the same.
watched
The
Psycho.
first one.
We
Yeah.
didn't watch the sequels,
I mean, I did, but we didn't watch them like for the podcast.
and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. But it didn't feel as like as much. Maybe because I don't know, we were getting better at deep diving than we were. I don't know. But yeah,
Maybe, but also
this one was more exhausting
I
than
also well, I think it was because we ended on Clarice.
yeah.
I think if we had ended with like Hannibal with the show, we'd still be riding that high of Hannibal. But between the movies and Clarice and and the season 3 of Hannibal, it's just been an exhausting time because it's been a while since we've been like enjoying
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
That's totally fair. So, well, we know we're gonna have a kickoff show and we're gonna love it. I already know I love it. I know you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a great season. We're gonna have a great time. It's gonna be spooky season coming soon. This will be finished before then, but that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
we'll but it'll be fall. I don't care if it's summer, it's fall. Um, so we're spooky already. Anyways, if
Is this
you
actually gonna be finished by spooky season?
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
13 episodes.
yeah, I know. Hold on, I'm just looking at my
I
schedule
think
that
so.
I
Didn't you
make.
tell me it's done before Halloween?
I don't remember. No, is it? Yeah, oh yeah, it is. It's done like,
Like 2 weeks before or something.
yeah, it'll be done by the 13th of, no. No, we'll be done recording before Halloween, but it won't be done airing before Halloween. Because we're,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
No.
good news. Good
Yeah.
news. You get it during spooky
You
season.
get Coven during spooky season. We're good. We're good.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. All right. Yeah, so if you have any thoughts, feelings, etc. about Hannibal, there are obviously no spoilers left, so feel free to reach out, chat about any of it. If you have any thoughts, feelings, etc. about Coven, also reach out, but secretly. Either find me or put really big letters that you're talking about Coven before you send it because we don't want to
Yes.
read anything for MK. And you can do that by emailing us deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can find me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we'll see you next week for our next episode of Atlantis.
Bye.
Bye.